Thanks, Paul, and hello, everybody. My name's Ken Thursby. I'm the co-lead of the eLeaflet use case here at PharmaLedger. The end user journey is a really important part of our future vision. We're seeking to connect health authorities, manufacturers, healthcare professionals, and patients together using the blockchain for the sharing of data and information. And for those of you that have seen our previous webinars, we talk a lot about value to the different ecosystem players from being connected and sharing this information. But out of all of these entities, which one is the most important? Well, at PharmaLedger, we think it's the end users, particularly the patients. Why do we think this? Well, it's simple. All of the other entities are there to serve the patients. Health authorities, manufacturers, and HCPs are all there to help patients manage their health condition and improve their health outcomes. So when it comes to this particular point, we really need to make sure that we're delivering value to the patients. Do you agree with us? If you're watching the webinar live, you get a chance to give us your view. Please use the Slido. The question is, who do you think is the most important ecosystem player for eLeaflet? Is it the health authorities, manufacturers, healthcare professionals, or patients? Please join in, let us know what you think, and we'll see the results at the end of the webinar. All right, back to the end user journey. You can see the future vision graphic here. We are going to focus in on the right-hand side of the graphic, the dissemination part. And that's because this is the part where the end users are engaged. When we're talking about value, we also want to talk about value in terms of the future state versus the current state. We need to be creating incremental value for this to be useful, right? So with that in mind, I'm just going to give a quick overview of the current state today, and then we'll compare it to the future vision. In today's world, the product information starts off at the manufacturers. The manufacturers create the content. Ironically, it's electronic. Okay, it's an antiquated Microsoft Word document, but it's still electronic. And that goes through the review and approval process. Once it's approved, the manufacturer adds some more info to it. And then that is converted to another electronic format to send to the printers. The printer produces the leaflets. The leaflets are returned to the manufacturer. The manufacturer puts them into a carton with the medicinal product, and then the patient gets it. In the future, we see this process being radically different. Manufacturers would still produce the content, but that content can be produced in a format suitable for authoring, review, approval, and dissemination using modern technology. And we can pull those from the manufacturer's systems of record into the enterprise wallet. And each manufacturer would have its own enterprise wallet, and they can put thousands of e-leaflets in there, thousands of different products. And of course, we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of manufacturers as well. So the data would be stored in these enterprise wallets. Furthermore, if there's an update, that can pull through into the enterprise wallet without a delay. As soon as the updated leaflet is approved by the health authorities, that would pull from the manufacturer's systems of record and sit there in the enterprise wallet ready for a patient when they need it. So how does an end user get the e-leaflet from the enterprise wallet? Well, one way they can do it is using their handheld device, their phone, and using an app. They can scan the barcode on the pack, and the back-end technology of the blockchain resolver will find the correct manufacturer's enterprise wallet for the product you have in your hand and deliver the most up-to-date leaflet. And to demonstrate this, PharmaLedger has developed an app, but it could equally be an API to an existing app in a market. And you'll see what that app looks like a little bit later in the webinar. So the first benefit of eLeaflet is you get it quickly and you get the most up-to-date leaflet because it pulls direct from the system, from the manufacturer's system of record. The other benefit that's offered by this solution is to do with the barcode. And this humble barcode, you can see it in the bottom right there. This humble barcode has 4 key bits of information in there: the global trade identification number, the serial number, the batch number, and the expiration date. And those bits of information can be used to deliver other important bits of data and information across the ecosystem. And this is what we call building for the future. It's kind of like a bundle of value on top of the basic EPI. And what you can see here is a list of different digital services that we could give today. It's not all inclusive. There's lots of other ideas that came from the patient advisory group and from the healthcare professional focus groups. This is just to demonstrate some of the ideas. So let's do a little dive into what we mean by that. So EPI is the eLeaflet plus the most up-to-date version, right? Then you could do other things. Using the data in the barcode, you could do an anti-counterfeit check to verify that the package is legitimate from the manufacturer. And that could help improve trust in the health system. Now, in Europe, we've got the Falsified Medicines Directive. Maybe that's not interesting for Europe. But for developing nations that don't have this capability right now, this could be very interesting for public health. Another example is patient safety, batch recall. If a manufacturer has a batch recall, they could post to the enterprise wallet to say that this particular batch number for this particular product number is subject to a recall. And when the patient or the healthcare practitioner scans the code, they'll get a message to tell them that the product is recalled. So that can help improve safety. Continuing with the safety theme, it's also possible to use the barcode and the app for adverse event reporting. When a healthcare product is released to the market, the authorities continue to monitor its efficacy and safety throughout the product's life. And if a patient experiences an adverse event with the product, they're encouraged to report that back to the authorities, which can help with decisions, with policy, and improving the information on the leaflet if that's necessary. With the humble barcode and the pack, what we could do is we could use that to capture the precise, accurate information about the product. So its exact product name, its product number, the exact batch, the serial number, and the expiration date. And that data could be used by the authorities to quickly understand what's going on with that product in the market, if there's any trends. So overall, again, that could help the overall safety of products in the market. So that's some of the notions of value we've got. And I say notions because these are ideas that we were thinking about at PharmaLedger, but we really didn't know for sure whether these kind of things would be valued by the end users. And that's what we wanted to understand. So we recognize that, the paper leaflet shown here in the graphic, that has its shortfalls that can be overcome with a digital version. But in this digital world, we've got an opportunity to reimagine the way the EPI is delivered to improve health outcomes. We've got notions of value, but we want to really understand what good looks like from an end user perspective. And that starts with understanding what's important to patients and healthcare professionals. We also need to recognize at PharmaLedger, right, blockchain technology is useful for some things, but it's not a silver bullet to solve every problem with product information. However, we want to make a difference, right? So we need to identify where we can create value. We want to get input from the end users. And because we're focused on action, we want to build mock-ups and get some feedback on those mock-ups to develop a useful product. We don't want to be busy fools. We want to do something which is valuable. So how do we do it? Well, we formed a couple of different end user groups. We formed a healthcare practitioner group. And we did this in Singapore. We chose Singapore because it's an early adopter market open to EPI. The health authority allows electronic product information in Singapore. And the authorities are also open to different technology opportunities. So this makes it a great place to test our notions of value. In addition, the population is digitally savvy. Even before the pandemic, Singaporeans were scanning barcodes to get information. Arguably, we're all a little bit better in doing that since the pandemic because scanning codes is now more commonplace than it was. The second group that we set up was a patient advisory group, and we did this with our partners in PharmaLedger, the European Patients Forum and the European Forum for Good Clinical Practice. We ran a series of discovery workshops over 5 weeks, and this was all about really understanding the patient journey. We set a scenario where a patient had just been diagnosed with a condition with the physician, and we went through the process of the patient taking the prescription, getting it filled at the pharmacy, interacting with the product and the product leaflet through the course of taking the medicine. And that was really active listening for our development team to understand the trials and tribulations that a patient goes through with their medicine. Day 2 was all about ideation. This was taking the ideas and features that the patients had around how we could transform from paper to electronic leaflet. We looked at those top ideas. We generated quite a few. We picked the top ideas, and in day 3, we started to turn those into prototypes called wireframes. And this is like a mock-up of what you would see on your mobile phone if you were using the app. And it's great for getting critique. And we got some really good positive feedback, but we also got some constructive feedback, things where we didn't quite hit the mark. And that's fine. We want to find these things out because it gives us an opportunity in a safe test environment to enhance the prototype, which is what we did in day 4. And all of these ideas and features have made it through into the next version of the app. And that really was useful to help us understand whether the notions of value we had were good. And it also allowed us to discover other things that our team hadn't thought about. Okay, that's a summary. We've got a couple of team members with us that are going to do a deep dive into each of these end user groups. First up, I'm going to hand over to TY, who's going to take us through the healthcare practitioner focus group.